Hello everyone. Today's topic is importance of being authentic. In any kind of a society, especially if it is a patriarchal society or something where we are taught to respect elders, being considerate to kids, older people who are not in good health, being considerate towards others, it becomes a habit to say things, doing certain things out of our nature where we really don't want to do, but we do it for the convenience of the others so they wouldn't misunderstand, so they wouldn't get offended, or they wouldn't consider something as very, offensive or to even to please them. As souls experience a human body, we are supposed to be authentic. I'll tell you, if you are given a costume that looks like a triangle and there is no space for your even to leg to come out of the costume to touch the ground so you can walk with it, it looks like a triangle. You have to wear it and you have to do every single thing that we do, you do on a daily basis. You can never take it off unless you are absolutely alone, maybe in a bathroom, maybe in your own room without anybody in there. Even in your private privacy, you're not allowed to take it. How suffocating that would be. And imagine if you're given a dress that actually hugs your body, a loose fit, whatever that it is, that feels very comfortable. It's easier to wear it, it's easier to operate on a daily basis, whatever we do from the moment we open our eyes to the moment where we go to sleep, isn't it? Yes, this is how exactly the differentiate between people adopting to behaviors, thinking patterns, actions, and even speech for the sake of others, even for strangers, uh, even with a positive intention, not with negative intention. Sometimes, it's not about those kind of things. Even with a positive intention, we are supposed to be in a place of authenticity. For example, even if you are given two dresses, there are trial rooms in the dress shops, so we can wear the most comfortable one. Even if we like certain dress, we wouldn't want to buy it if it is ill-fitting, if it is badly fitting, if it is too tight or too loose, or if it is something that does not feels right on our body, isn't it? Even when it comes to we wearing on a home clothes, daily wearable clothes, we would like to be in a very comfortable clothes, isn't it? This is my point. This is how universe wants us to be in a comfortable place where we are not doing anything for the sake of pleasing somebody else unnecessarily. For example, there are people who might, get onto the metro or bus or train, and imagine there are a lot of women are sitting, and if this man is somebody who has a good person, and he taking out the mobile just because he's either it's very uncomfortable for him to be alone in the company of too many women, or if he look at anybody anywhere, there are everywhere women are there, and in his mind if he thinks, what if they misunderstand me looking at them? No, this thought of himself telling himself, what if they misunderstand me? So taking the mobile as excuse is something that he really did not wanted to do, not because of the, if he really wanted to see the mobile, that is different. Just to get out of a situation that he himself created in his own head is something people usually do, even with a good intention. In my previous videos, I actually experienced something that happened in a movie theater that was unauthentic because I cared about what other person might think about me. So I did something that I was not supposed to do, even with a good intention. Even for the smallest of the things, uh, to say certain things and be okay with it. And imagine if you do not like certain people, distant relatives, your colleagues. Sometimes, adjusting is something that's good, but if you look at a lot of people around, there are people who speak very straightforward. They might actually experience certain things, uh, the other people might not be too many kind to them or too much closer to them, but that is actually, in a way, that is actually good because they are not doing a fake thing for anybody's liking. That is the point. Because you know if somebody has a habit of doing things for free for others because they want other people to call them as a good people or a kinder people, they want to earn some kind of a positive connection, they want a good name for themselves wherever they are, in the office, with their relatives, or even randomly. They are obliged to do that every single time, even when they do not want to do, because they might convince themselves that is something that's necessary to do. This we are not supposed to do, because when we are authentic, the point is, when we are absolutely authentic to ourselves, universe listens to us. Universe says yes, finally you accepted every single part of you, self acceptance. So you're not doing something for because somebody else might get offended. You're not doing something to please somebody. If you're in a relationship and pleasing somebody because you love them is completely different. I'm not talking about those kind of things. I'm talking about things, people doing unnecessary things because they think somebody else might think bad of them. For example, people cleaning their house, even if the house is cleaner, and the relatives are showing up because they might feel, or they might have experienced previously, that negative comments from relatives behind their back, that the house is not clean, the bathroom is smelling, or the kitchen is messy, whatever it is. We are supposed to not to count on those kind of things. It is their comment. We should be at least in a place to not to have that kind of a concern. That is not our problem. People speak a lot of things behind, not everybody, but we cannot just give importance to these kind of things. A lot of people what people other people might think of them, and doing a lot of things and losing a lot of good moments in their life. This is how it is. This is exactly what we are not supposed to do. When we bend for these kind of things, what universe recognizes is us willingly compromising for the sake of others, which means letting others have a say in our life, in the eyes of the universe. So whenever we do these kind of things, universe also notices. So when we let go of this kind of a behavior system, we do not need to be stern and strict and unkind towards others to be this way. But no, for example, a lot of people, even if it is smaller things. For example, imagine if there is a person in your relative circle who focus on only money and value only if you have money or something like that. And if they're visiting, you're purposely finding out a most expensive uh, dress, or even buying something that's too much expensive to show off in a wedding because you don't want to lose face in front of others. This is something that people do because XYZ reason. you know, when, I'm not saying that we are not supposed to do this, we are not supposed to do that. Point of this video is being authentic. You know, when people are absolutely authentic, it releases a lot of burden from their shoulder not to do things for the sake of somebody else. Even majority of the time, it was all in their head, or sometimes it's what because of some past experience, because whatever the comment or the experience that they had with others, it imprinted on them and they let it sit in their head hard to consider it as a point. For example, if you visit a shop and if you are treated differently because you were wearing a house clothes, because you just didn't realize and you just went and you want to buy something, you want to buy something and you didn't change your dress, you just went and because of it if they mistreated you or treated you something differently, perhaps you would remember that. And not just that shop, if people are sensitive toward these kind of things, if that experience is something that made an impression in the heart, in the head, perhaps no matter which shop they would go, perhaps they would dress up, even if it is in a close proximity, because they do not want others to mistreat them for the dress that they wear, the shoes that they wear, or whatever, how they look. Where there are a lot of people who wouldn't go out of their house without putting something on their face, even men, powder, cosmetics, something, because it's oily, it looks different, and people might treat them very just differently. Oh, I wouldn't comment on that. But my spirit guardians very consistently kept telling me, when we are authentic, when we do not care about these kind of things, and when we are in that position, it creates a special aura, energy towards ourselves, around us, as a, earth has a magnetic field. In a similar way, we also have a field around us that is energetic. When we are authentic, when we do not give this kind of a power to somebody else over us, our core energy becomes stronger. When our core energy becomes stronger, even when we do certain kind of things, if we, even without thinking that this person might treat me differently, things would go very positively. Because when we vibrate in a high vibration, being very authentic, universe's acknowledgement is something highest. The most powerful being is the universe itself. When we are recognized by the universe itself, it means we have a power. Imagine being recognized by a king or an emperor. It would be very powerful, isn't it? So this is something that energetically affects us. Even when a person is absolutely authentic, even if they just get up with an oily face and without even changing their dress, even if they go to the shop or even a bigger shop and do something, it would not affect them, because their energy influences people to make sure if they stay in a positive energy. People who are authentic are usually in a high vibrational mode, because of practicing authenticity takes some practice for those people who are indoctrinized to be a people pleaser. It seems like a very smallest of the thing, but these kind of small inserts especially are taught by the elders in the family, parents, grandparents, and uncles and aunts. You cannot say such things, you cannot do these things, you have to be this way, you have to be that way. And suddenly that kind of a behavior comes out. Even to keep things properly in the house itself is an understanding of perfection. Because even if you think your house looks perfect, a person can literally walk into your life and say, this house looks so not perfect. You know, I remember, oh, sorry. I remember watching a house makeover show, and these people who come back from this period of renovation where they were staying somewhere else, and the people who renovated the house for the makeshift thought the house looked perfect. And when the owners came back, they were basically in a certain kind of a shock because they absolutely hated it. So one person thinking same house as something they were proud of because they worked on it and they thought it was perfect. And when the owners came back, it was not so. So pushing ourselves to have that perfection is something we are not supposed to do for the sake of somebody else. Even an understanding of perfection is very personal, because some might think wearing classic, ethnic dress, it suits somebody, but they might completely different, have a different opinion about wearing a different kind of a dress and looking actually good and feeling really good. This is exactly why, generational gap. Even people, there are a lot of old people who basically have a lot of open mindedness because they experience something that uh, they let go of that judgment to a certain extent, at least I would say. This is why being authentic is very important, because our life is ours. We are not supposed to give power to somebody else to control our life, whether they demand it or we voluntarily do it. Culturally speaking, there are a lot of things, even smallest of the things. Probably I'll write it down and I'll make a particular another video regarding that, because it seems like a normal thing, a cultural thing, a societal thing, but it is not exactly. You know, um, for example, if somebody is just walking into the house and this child is basically writing something, and just because this person asked the people from the house, where is the kid, and suddenly parents calling, what are you doing, and the kid is like, I have exam tomorrow and come and sit with us for a while. It's something that kids forced to do these kind of things because of the parents. They thought this is how it is, otherwise it looks like a insult to the guest or whatever that it is. This is one thing that parent probably wouldn't do if the parent is actually caring towards the child, but there are a lot of people who wouldn't mind because they think it's just 5 minutes, 10 minutes. This is one example. Even the smallest of the example, for example, if somebody has a habit of locking the door with little bit, carelessness, um, making the noise, not purposefully, and somebody else taking this as an insult, and if they imagine if there is a parent who don't like this kind of noises and scold this child, no matter, imagine this is a teenager who has a habit of locking the door with a little bit of noise, without having a thought of whatever happened. The parent shouting at the child or saying them very angry sternly that you're not supposed to do that anymore, and child taking that as something cute, even when that child grows up, and even if the child is in their 30s or 40s, not because of the consideration for others, even when they are in their own house, even when they are in a mall, they gently closing the lock, because that's deeply imprinted. No, being considerate is good, not overly though, not at our cost. For example, if somebody is in a hurry and you cannot just give importance to these kind of things. My point diverted from my actual video. Being authentic is important because I was talking about energy field, When we are authentic, the strength of our energy field becomes stronger. When a person has that aura, that respect, that people automatically oblige and doing good things and being benevolent and kind becomes a natural thing. We do not need to do those kind of things. It actually automatically happens because of the aura. No matter how we look, no matter what we wear, no matter what we speak. This is the point. Because people wanting to have supernatural power is something even hidden in people's heart. If I had this power, I would do this. If I had this power, I would do this. We do. We are internally a supernatural being. We just need to activate our supernatural power. We might not be able to, suddenly grow wings and fly out, but we do have a lot of powers as a spiritual beings, as souls. This is exactly why, remembering who you are is something my spirit guardians always used to say. Remember your powers, remember who you are. Because it's essential to remember our identity and make use of our powers. Because earth life is something that might be filled with a lot of influences, both positive and negative. In order for us to remember who we are, there are a lot of things that we can do. For example, if we want to hit a goal post or goal something, we cannot use the hanger, isn't it? We have to use a bow and an arrow. Arrow is something straight with a sharp tip focused towards its goal. So since it is straight, it goes straight. We cannot use the hanger for this kind of purpose. So if we are living like a hanger to straighten us, straightening ourselves, and becoming like a arrow is something that we can choose to do. Straight, focused, authentic, and sharp in the end means taking our power back that we perhaps never knew that we had in the beginning, because people giving importance to things because of whatever their parents, their siblings, the family, the relatives, the culture, the society, and everything that they learn in their life, forgetting who they are. No, if you think about people living their life having certain belief system, ask yourself once, do you even remember who you were in your past life? Even if you don't believe in past lives, there are a lot of people, testimonies exactly exist that they do remember their past lives, multiple. So if they are remembering, it means it must be certainly truth to certain extent, isn't it? So what if somebody, imagine, I even asked myself a lot of time, where was I in my past life? If people have been in a different continent, in different life cycles, so it's pointless to think about somebody else and doing something. It's better to look at our own self and do the things that is good for us with the self-love and respect, cutting that ego away while having consideration for ourselves and for others, but without abandoning ourselves. That is very important. you know Doing good to others is very good, but not at our cost. It is still is in our hand. We can still choose to do that, even if it is costing. If somebody choose to do but has to do it, that should not come with a price tag or a regret later. A lot of people regret doing good things in their life because of it, because they do not know the consequences that energetically entangle them with certain things that they did not knew. Anyway, if one thing happens to one person doesn't mean that it will happen to somebody else, because there are people, no good things go unpunished. There is a saying is that it is because of the same reason, because people who are supposed to learn certain things, and even with a good intention, if somebody intervenes and stop that lessons from learning, it might not be a good thing for the person who intervened. Even with a good intention, if somebody is trying to help somebody else, it might not be good in a deeper way, because uh, I wouldn't say in a day to day basis, but in a longer way. So this is a this is a question that could create a confusion in my mind. So are we supposed to be kind or not? We are supposed to be kind. This is exactly why knowing whether we are supposed to help somebody or not is something that we can actually receive clarity from the divine. This is exactly why being authentic helps us to know those kind of things, whether we are supposed to be doing this, we're not supposed to be doing that. Because when we are authentic, we stop thinking about what others might think of us, whether they are offended, or they have negative thoughts, or they are looking down on us, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just one life. We're supposed to make our life something that we do not have to run away from. That is our goal, to create a life that is happy and satisfying, and we don't have to escape from it. Others, there are others, people who are actually kind and good to us, they wouldn't judge. They would not need us to do anything for them to stay in our life, isn't it? This is better to keep such people in our life and weed out the people who are not fitting in our life. This is exactly, running behind somebody for love is something never usually doesn't work unless that person, reciprocates or something like that. This is exactly why we need to be, we are supposed to be authentic and increase our core energy or aura, our energy field, and lessen the people pleasing or cutting ties with those kind of beliefs, behaviors that is not good for us. Means not to let somebody else have that power over us, and remain true to ourselves. If something is no, means no. And if somebody says, take a leave and let's go somewhere else, and if you really don't want to do, but they might get angry or offended, or you may think that they may trouble you, and you doing that for the sake, that is people pleasing. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's you want their appreciation, you want something from them, or you might fear that they might get offended or something like that. This is all because of it. No, it is because of the attachment with the outcome with other people. This is exactly why being detached is something good for us, because when we are detached, the things that is not good for us usually leaves our life. It might be very painful though. I wouldn't suggest that to personally anybody, but since we are talking about being authentic,